Right, so here we are. We're recording, and basically, this is Knowle West Festival and Cables+Cameras homecoming event. So this is really strange that we're all in these little boxes for this, and normally we'd meet up on stage and talk and hang out and do our thing and unpack the wonderful creativity of our filmmakers who are here. So just a really brief introduction. My name is Adam Murray, and I'm a Bristol-based film programmer. And I usually collaborate with a collective of film programmers called Come the Revolution. Obviously, today's Cables+Cameras, another group called Common Hand. And coming up in October, I'm hoping to launch Bristol Black Horror Club. So if anyone is into horror movies as well, oh man, so I'm very excited about that. And I want to talk to the three of you guys a bit later about what you guys think about horror and representations of blackness in horror, because I don't think, even though that's historically taken place for a long time, I don't think we've even had a chance to talk about these things on this side of the Atlantic. So I don't know, I just think diasporically that'd be a real cool thing. But before we go off into that, I'd like to thank Knowle West Media Centre and the festival and everyone involved that's allowed this to take place. I just wanted to quickly also thank the filmmakers of all the films that have been screened today. So Gary Thompson's 25 years of Full Cycle Records, Michael Ellis, who's with us, Boys in the Woods, Inner by, is it Mevis Birungi?
Mevis Birungi.
Mevis Birungi.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Mavis, that was a really good film. I'm going to ask Dee about that when we get a chance as well. Because Dee, didn't you do the voiceover?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Lockdown News by Dee Hassan, who we have right here with us. MANDEM, so Elias and the Guys with my best short film ever, which is quite controversial and fiery film, but really kind of unpacks some of the mythology around representation, particularly in short films, race and sexuality. So it's a great film. And The West, we're getting a little bit of feedback loop, aren't we? And The West, which is Black Font versus George Kurtz. Just a really great selection of films. So thank you, Gary Thompson, for that. Right, let's get into some questions. First up, I'm just happy that the three of you guys are here because, like Dee, I know I've met Michael and Pierre before, so I'm excited to hear what they've got to say, and it's lovely to meet you as well, Dee. So that's like a new creative friend. So here we go, Michael. First off, wanted to talk to you about Boys in the Woods. So my first question was, bro, I see that T Visuals is in the credits. How's he doing? What was that collaborative relationship like working on Boys in the Woods? Because it's beautifully shot.
Okay. Yeah, so first I just want to say hi to Dee and Pierre. And I just want to thank Knowle West for this opportunity to screening the film. Thank Cables+Cameras too. In regards to T Visuals, he's doing okay. He's doing all right. Like many of us, he's just a little bit frustrated with all the restrictions that are in place that are kind of hindering and good. In relation to the film Boys in the Woods, the collaboration was good. Like we help each other out on sets. I help him out on his sets. He helps me out on mine. So on Boys in the Woods, he was filming behind the scenes for me, and he's very creative with that. He did just shoot it. He just creates good, and I enjoy working with him. I help him a lot. He helps me a lot, doing whatever needs to be done, really.
Yeah, because I mean, like the last time we spoke, it was great to kind of like the energy in the room between you guys is phenomenal, and camaraderie and laid backness and the willingness to collaborate with each other. So it's no wonder to me that this project really clicks. And like for me personally, it struck a chord because the two things for me are like Afrofuturism. I love genre cinema, and I just want to see more diasporic stories explored through the power of genre, science fiction, horror, fairy tale, all of these different kinds of things that we're never, in industry wise, we're traditionally not allowed to talk about these things, right, or explore them. So watching Boys in the Woods, it's a film that I love now as an adult, but I would have loved this as a little boy. When I was a little boy, this would have rocked my world because of the representation and what's taking place on screen.
Yeah.
So where did this idea come from, Mike?
Well, the idea it started off as me just wanting to do a film in the woods because I've seen a lot of independent filmmakers make films in the woods. So that's what I started off wanting to do.
Sorry, Mike, we're getting a little bit of lag.
I did come up with the idea of that. Oh, there's the lag. Okay.
I would say, Mike, start from the idea.
Okay. So the idea just came to me basically from just wanting to do a film in the woods. And yeah, I just came up with the idea about a group of guys, a group of men, they've just done a robbery and they've come out of this portal and they've ended up in the woods. And then that was the initial idea, what I had. In terms of the rest of it, that came because I shared the idea with my girlfriend, and she she was in the middle of a writing course, so she's not written before, but she was in the middle of a writing course, and she was helping me out with ideas and suggesting stuff, and I said to her, why don't you write this one? And she was excited about it. So yeah, we went through ideas. I left it with her. I was guiding her here and there, wherever she needed guiding. And yeah, it developed from there, along with some of the, the subtext too that's in there. A lot of that came from her as well. And I was just happy to be able to, bring it to the screen for her, and she was excited about it.
I mean, it's really cool. It's got, for me, it's got heart, and I feel as if you could probably pitch it as a TV show. It's got such appeal to it. I don't know if that makes sense. And
yeah, it does.
And just go for it, Mike. Sorry.
No, it's cool. Yeah, I saw the project as a project to allow people who had an interest in film but have never had the experience. I saw it as an opportunity to give them that experience. So so my girlfriend was one of those people that, she wanted to write, so I let her take lead on that. And even some of the actors in the film, this was their very first time acting. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Initially I didn't think it would be a film that I would be submitting to festivals, or even like you've just said, it being TV worthy or anything like that. It was just a project for me, giving people the experience and the opportunity to be what it is. So yeah, I'm pleased with it. And some of the subtext in there too, it just made it more of a deep and meaningful film for me. So even like, you know, stop me if I'm going too long. Yeah, so
Mike, how long was the shoot? How long did it take?
the shoot was scheduled for 3 full days, and we did that. Yeah, we shot it in 3 days, but there was a few more days to do some pickup shots. And yeah, and we probably, because some of those days are dragged out a bit, because on one day it was an overcast day, which is, you know, I like to shoot in overcast days, and so some of the other days it was like the sun was coming in and coming out, which was annoying. So we found that we were, you know, stopping and starting, and in mid conversation while the sun was out, and then as soon as we saw the clouds, we were like, all right, clouds coming, 3, 2, 1. So when the cloud came, we had to work when the cloud was covering the sun. So that, you know, made the day longer than it should have been, but yeah, it was fun and we got it done.
I was going to ask you about the special effects, which were great, and I like the effects and kind of in camera stuff as well, particularly around the portal. That really kind of that felt really kind of grounded in that universe, if you know what I mean. It's a really kind of cool effect.
Yeah.
So what was some of the, if you don't mind me asking, what were some of the considerations? Like, how do you prep for visual effects, you know, like sort of After Effects on the shoot?
Yeah.
Because I'm always like fascinated as to how, you know, the dissolve of the guy towards the end, one of the kind of colonial robbers or orb thieves. That was just a fantastic effect, and it's sort of, you know, how, for me, my thing is like both the practical effects, because that wound is just really great kind of prosthetic effect, and the use of props and CGI. What are some of the considerations that you've got to think about on a shoot when you're kind of using or thinking about working in that kind of way?
Yeah, well, this was my first time attempting to do anything like this, so I did think a lot about it before going in. And one of the things I knew I would have to do, especially the portal scene, showing the guys, is I knew I was going to have the camera on it on the tripod. It was going to have to be a static shot, so I can film it with no one in the scene, and then film it with them doing their thing. So I'd have that to play with. So I knew I was going to have to do that, and I did that, and it worked out well. I did the effect myself, my first time, in still using Final Cut Pro, because that's what I edit with. I'm
hoping we haven't lost Mike.
Sorry, everything's frozen. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we can all hear each other, yeah?
Poor internet signal.
I hope we haven't lost Mike.
Hello? I can hear you.
Yep, we still got you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Don't worry, Mike.
Yeah, so I knew I was going to have to do that, and I kind of fluked the effect. I fluked it. It worked.
Okay, I think we're now lost in it. We're now lost in a portal.
You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah, we got you. Just about.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the prosthetics. Where the guy's floating in when he. Okay.
Okay, I would say give it another try from the prosthetics, and then I think you were going to talk about the floating effect.
Yeah, so I was happy with the prosthetics. It looked really realistic and believable, so I was happy with that. Yeah, with the guy floating in the air and stuff and lifting off the ground. I was pleased with how that came out, but that was just us. We had two men. I think I was one of the men actually, one on either side of the guy, and we just lifted him up. The camera just kept us out of the shot, and then we walked forward with him. And the wide shot where you can see him floating, we had a green screen behind him in that one, and yeah, just keyed that out. Oh, and the shot where the ball goes up into the lady's hand. We did that by just didn't reverse anything. Some people think it was reversed, but
well, I was looking out for that.
Yeah, the camera started
Ellis,
off on the
yeah.
Yeah. The camera started off on the bag, and then as the camera went up to her hand, I had someone else have the ball in their hand, and they threw it up into her
That's
hand.
really
So
cool.
I think that took about probably 3 attempts, only 3 attempts. I thought it would have taken more, but
Yeah.
yeah, we did that.
Where did you find your young cast?
An effect that I did want to have in there. Oh, I have a friend who is she's a drama teacher. So I called out to her and I reached out to her and asked if she knew of any children that would be confident enough and be able to play the characters. So she sent me some videos of quite a few, about 10 of them. So I had to select 2 from the class. And yeah, it was a good choice. I think they did really well. They were happy with it. First time acting in a film. Yeah, and I think they did a good job. Shaq, the other guy, can't remember how. I think. Oh yeah, I put a post out, and then his mom contacted me, and she sent me some videos of him performing in school and stuff like that. And I looked at him. I said, yeah, he fits the part. He looks right for the part. And then his performance, he nailed it.
Yeah, they're all really confident and really natural in front of the camera. And I mean, yeah, I was very much impressed by that. And I think those young guys up against those more sort of seasoned character actors.
Yeah.
Very cool.
They held their own. Yeah, they held their own. They did.
Costume design. Who was involved with the costumes, the kind of costumes for the kind of colonial, the colonial orb robbers, and the costumes for our kind of Afrofuturist, interdimensional, African. I don't know. How do we describe them?
Yeah.
What did you guys call the tribe who are kind of like in?
It was difficult not to call them African. Yeah. I didn't want them to be African in this film. I just, which was difficult because it was only after the shoot I realized that the man, he had a pendant. It was of a map of Africa, so couldn't get away from it. But yeah, the design, the costume was by Keely. She has her own brand, her own collection of clothing, African attire. So, and I had only met her, say, 2 weeks before the shoot. She called me to film something, a show for her, a fashion show. So we had a meeting, and then I told her what I was doing, and she said, yeah, she's got some clothes that I can use. And then she knew someone else, Amelia, so it worked out. It was worked out. We were allowed to just select from the jury what we wanted.
Cool. I'd say my last 2 questions would be, What any upcoming projects that you could share with us, or things that you might be working on currently? Because I mean, COVID is just a really strange time, isn't it? So it's sort of everyone's doing different things and finding different ways to sort of survive and be creative and work. But yeah, if there are any kind of basically like final thoughts around Boys in the Woods, and if there's a project that you might be working on at the moment that you may want to share, or not.
No, so final thoughts around Boys in the Woods. Yeah, I was just really pleased with the outcome, considering that it was many people's first time doing anything like that. I think the film turned out well. Yeah, so I'm pleased with it. People have said to me, "Oh, what happens next? Is there going to be more?" But I didn't have any intentions of doing more after that. But if there's a network that wants to, put money into it, then I'd be happy to do that. In terms of future projects, yeah, like you said, it's difficult with COVID at the moment. I find out I'm just writing. So I'm writing a pilot for a TV series. I'm in the preliminary stages of that, which is exciting because. Sorry?
Can we hear the pilot, what it's about? Can we get a teaser?
Oh, people have asked me that, but the most I can say is I consider it to be the UK's version of Power.
Ooh.
Oh, cool.
I like that.
Yeah, man.
So, yeah. It's quite challenging because, series and stuff, there's a lot of characters and a lot of complicated storylines and stuff, but I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
That's amazing. Amazing. Thank you for sharing, Michael. So
sorry,
it's a wicked film. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just my, my latest release, my latest short film that I've just released. Corrupt. Yeah. So I've just released that one too, and that's getting really good feedback. It's doing well. I'm really pleased with it, and I feel like I was happy that I was able to release it now because it's very relevant during the current times in terms of what's going on with the police and a lot of black men in the West. So it's in relation to that. So I just wanted to get that out too. Sorry?
Where can we find the film?
Corrupt is on my YouTube channel, Michael Ellis Films.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can watch that there.
Check it out.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, no worries. Even with like a little bit of internet lag, it's all good.
Yeah, apologize. That's going to be that's on my side. My internet quality
at the
it's
moment
cool. Is
It's cool. I mean, I think the most important thing is just hearing your voice, hearing your ideas, and sharing the film. I mean, I'm now very excited about the idea that you've got around a kind of UK power vibe. That's incredible. And what I'm hoping is that the positive, like this whole COVID thing is a strange double-edged sword. And I'm thinking like, I'm hoping the positive side of it will be that it will bless you with the time to work on that script and the storylines and all the different narrative details. Yeah. So it's wicked, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Pierre. Where are my questions? Here are my questions, Pierre. It's really good to see you, man. It's been ages and ages and ages. And we were going to talk about Our City, Your Eyes. I mean, I'd seen Our City, Your Eyes before, and we were able to talk at a panel a year, maybe 2 years ago.
Mental.
I can't remember when it was, but also Splits P was with us as well on the evening. That was such a great evening, and I was really taken aback by the film for many different reasons. And I think the main question, I mean, we'll do a couple of questions that give it a bit of context and go back over sort of your experience, how it came about. But I mean, like the main thing I sort of wanted to ask you is sort of, in hindsight, from that project to now, what's the kind of what have been some of the outcomes of that collaboration and going to Senegal, and just like, are there any reverberations from that project that kind of resonate to now, or is it one of those things that's like it's done and dusted, or?
Oh wait, hold on, give me a second. All right.
No worries, man.
So with the film, yeah, it's quite mad because I made that back in 2018, and that was an opportunity that came about with Africa Eye and the Arts Council, and me and Joel went out to Senegal and filmed there for like 2 weeks, met a bunch of music artists, met a bunch of creators, and just explored and just like really just absorbed like the environment, like just the motherland. And since then I've been like trying to push it to like festivals and whatnot, and then out of nowhere, like towards like this year, it got into the RTS, the Royal Television Society Festival, and won best short form, which is absolutely mental because at that point I'd completely forgotten about the film. I was just like coming back at the start of the year. That was a great way to start the year. So yeah,
yeah, I think that's a really important point to make, which I think we probably all agree on, right? Which is one of the strangest things about the craft of filmmaking is you can finish a project, but it still lives and breathes, you know? A film will always find new audiences. So even though it's something you might have done a week ago, 10 years ago, people are still looking at the thing that you've created and collaborated with all the other people that are involved in that project. So I just think that, sorry, Pierre, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just think that's such a beautiful point to make.
Yeah, no.
It's one of the pleasures, isn't it, of being a filmmaker, right?
Yeah, honestly, really is. And I think you said it right, that, you know, the film literally had its own life and just kept on like going. And I was kind of impressed because I didn't really know about it because it was submitted through my university. And at that point,
okay,
I had already graduated as well. So yeah, it was quite interesting. I was pretty blessed.
So have you collaborated with Splits again, or do you guys keep in contact, or is it just been one of those things of like, because you're both busy, you're both busy dudes, so.
Yeah, no doubt. Right now, I'm currently just finishing off a film actually, and that's what I really want to like advertise and like talk about. So that was something I was as part of the New Creators Initiative by Arts and the Arts Council, and I applied for it like last year, like December or the start of the year in January, and got accepted around March, and we were scheduled to shoot in May. But then like the pandemic hit, and then it was just delayed. But that gave me enough time to really work on the script, and that was really good. And we were just able to shoot it in August, which was really good. And now we're just in the post-production aspect, just polishing up the sound and the music. And yeah, hopefully we should be able to push it out in October.
Now, what was that August shoot like? Did you have any kind of COVID considerations, or?
Yeah, a lot of COVID considerations. Yeah, it was an interesting experience because like we all had to like stay in our own departments, be in like little bubbles. So you had all the sound people in their own department, like sharing their own little bubble, and then we had the camera department and like the extras and the actors. So we had to keep everything separate. And before shooting, we also had to get our certificate, saying that we had gone through the processing and testing of like all the procedures that you need to know working on set and like avoiding risk and hazard and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, it was all quite kind of mad, but yeah, it was a good experience.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't had a chance to ask anyone that shot during COVID yet what their experiences have been like. And I mean, we all know how kind of delicate, but also kind of sometimes how quick we have to move and think on our feet in the middle of a shoot or production. So just that like added layer of considerations that everybody has to take into account. I mean, come on, man. It's good to actually ask someone who's had the experience so far with the team collaborating together. So, no joke. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's really, it's important, because I haven't had a chance to ask anyone these questions. I mean, were there any moments where, you know, any examples of sort of challenges? I mean, like equipment maybe, or I don't know. I imagine you only discover once you start to do it.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was the film was set. I had certain like majority of the scenes set during the nighttime, and our cinematographer wanted to go for an approach where we shoot day for night. So that would essentially be shooting during the daytime, and then color grading it in post production for the nighttime. And this is quite a common method that I hadn't known, and they do quite a lot in the blockbuster films and whatnot. So yeah, that was really challenging. And like what Michael was saying, like shooting overcast, that's literally the perfect conditions. And the day that we shot it on was like the 1st of August. It was like peak summer. And, like, sun patches, and just like we were just waiting for the right cloud to come over, and then like we'd shoot and have to stop. Yeah, it was like mayhem, absolute mayhem. And that was the first day of the shoot as well. That was stressful. Yeah, that was probably it.
Can we ask? I mean, because can we ask what it's about?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, the story originally was meant to. My focus was on exposing Edward Colston, and I had this idea for so long, and I had like a scene about having scenes around like the statue and everything, and then it all got pulled down, and the whole Black Lives Matter movement came through, and I was like, rah, I gotta change my script. And yeah, and then like I was talking to a lot of historians, like Bristol historians, and I found a story about this woman called Dina, and that's essentially the name of the film as well. And it's heavily inspired by her life. And she was a runaway slave that was in Bristol, and she was threatened by her mistress to be sent back to the plantation back in the West Indies. And essentially, so it's her running away from that and not wanting to be sent back. And yeah, and like we have this sort of like, so it's a bit about the past as well as the future, because we also follow another character, what do you call it, an international student that's just coming to Bristol. So we're sort of seeing Bristol like from fresh eyes as well. Yeah, so you got that nice contrast. Yeah.
It strikes me. Is it too far of a leap of the imagination? But it sounds like a ghost story to me. You know, that layers of time, and it's kind of, you know, and like,
yeah.
I've been looking into black horror a lot recently, and Tanana Reeve-Dew, who's like a African American scholar, who she focuses specifically on the kind of notion of black horror, and she sort of makes the distinction that, you know, like diasporically, our experiences are already horrific. So like, in effect, horror is a genre that we should explore more, because it can also have a cathartic healing energy to it if we can explore and play with the genre in a particular kind of way. And it just strikes me that that's what you're experimenting with that story, like bringing back kind of traumatic but important stories that still haunt our histories.
For sure. No, that's essentially the premise of the story, and just sort of having that sort of resurgence of the past coming back, because it still haunts us till this day. Like we see it everywhere, and that was something I really wanted to like show through this film, even like with the street names in Bristol, and that was like New Guinea Street and like Jamaica Street. These are still like evidence of like the past and like the horrors that we went through. And yeah, I definitely wanted that in the film. And with the character as well, with the international student, there's a scene where he's just jogging through Bristol, and this is where we see all the street signs and like the setting of like Bristol itself. And then we have Dina in the same like shots, but she's like running for her life, and you have this contrast, just like joyfully running and then running for her life, and then the two worlds clash in the forest. And yeah, it's like sort of Alice in the Wonderland. He gets like sort of transported back into time. But yeah.
So Pierre, when do we get to see this? I'm hooked already.
That's great. I think you'd like it. Yeah. Hopefully we get to push it out in October, and I'll be advertising a lot more on my socials and Instagram and website. So yeah, stay tuned.
That's just amazing, man. I'm stoked to be here talking with three brilliant creators who are like going for it. Oh man, yeah, I can't wait already. That's like two things I put on my list. I can't wait to see both of those things. Yeah, Pierre, brilliant. I can't wait to see that. I think there's a question now. There's like a thread of a question I want to ask all three of you at the end that I think we can kind of like round things off on. There's just, I don't know, I'm just like constantly excited about the future of kind of UK Black filmmaking. And I just think this is just the beginning. I'm going to shelve that thought for now. And best to last, Dee, lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
First up, how are you and what's going on? And what's your kind of lockdown experience been like? Because it's just weird, and it's just...
Yeah, no, it's been a weird year since I'm a very new filmmaker, as Pierre would know. We met a few years ago in uni, and I used to think, oh my god, it's so cool, filmmakers are so cool, but I never had any plans of becoming one. And at the beginning of this year, I got the placement at Knowle West, and then we got into lockdown like a month ago.
It's just crazy. We were talking about this at the beginning, right? And I was just doing a bit of research around creative workforce for future filmmakers. I was looking at the website. I was like, yeah. And I could see that your work had kind of already gone up, and they were kind of talking about, and when this happens for 2020, you know, at this stage of the year, this will happen. And then just researching your film and the project, my heart just kind of went, oh, because it's right at the moment where you're about to kind of launch into all of these different things, and then like whack, you know, this whole kind of COVID thing lands right in almost the middle of it, halfway through.
For us, right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Started.
Oh no! What?
And then I got sick immediately before the lockdown. So March, I was sick, early March, 1st of March. So I had a month in the placement, the 12-month placement. And then immediately to lockdown. But it's all right. We're making the best of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, the film's wicked. So lockdown news, yeah. Where did the idea come from? And tell me about your cast.
So about a month into lockdown, our project coordinator or manager asked us to, me and Mevis, the other girl that I'm doing the placement with, were asked to reflect on isolation, do like a 2-minute video reflecting on isolation. And she lives alone. So for her, lockdown was quite difficult. And that's what her movie reflects, about her thinking and finding ways to distract herself and chatting to me like over Zoom and stuff. And mine was about living in a house of 8 people. A very different, stressful experience, but I think I took a comedy approach where Mavis took quite a drama.
That's what I loved about both of these films, Dee, is that they contrast really eloquently around, I think, the polarization of emotions that I think we're all feeling. Like one day it just feels like chaos and despair, and then all it can take is one little thing that lightens the load, you know. And both films, I think both films sort of touch those sweet spots of what storytelling should be all about, really, right? At its fundamental core. it's about, I think, storytelling should make us laugh and cry and be honest, and sometimes take us on adventures. You know, I thought yours was actually more than comedy. I thought it was really satirical, really funny, because the observations are just really sharp about life and that first chunk of those weeks. It's just sort of it's chaos, isn't it? And by that stage, I was sick of the news, so that's why it made me laugh out loud immediately, because I think, like, subconsciously we all probably feel the same way.
Yeah, it was supposed to reflect about how the whole world is your house now, and if there was going to be news, it would be the news about the kitchen and the brand of bread, rather than what's going on halfway across the world. And I sort of bribed my little sisters to be in it.
She's brilliant.
15 and 11, and I had to bribe them with sweets and jelly beans and stuff. And and that's why the background changes a lot, because I couldn't get them to stay in the spot for longer than 15 minutes at a time. So they'd leave, and I'd have to bribe them to come back, and they'd leave and forget what I told them to say and come back. So it took a day though to do the filming, and then like
Really?
an hour or two to edit.
You're kidding. How did you get those guys to you know, you shot that in a day? Yeah,
an afternoon, because it was right before lunch, which is why it's about lunch. My mom's cooking some weird food that we hated. So that's what it was about. And yeah, it was just that specific day captured in that moment. There was no planning, there was no thinking about it. My cousins were coming that weekend. That's when we got the news about them. And my mum was cooking some weird food. My dad bought the wrong brand of bread. So that's literally what was that day.
I just thought it was a brilliant family snapshot portrait of what I think a lot of households were kind of going through in that moment. But I'm really blown away that you shot that in a day. How long did it take to edit?
A few hours. Yeah, about 2 hours, because it's quite a short video. It's about 2 minutes, a minute and a half.
Wow.
It was very long.
Yeah, but it's kind of, but it's like, it's short, sharp, and which is, you know, what a really good kind of satirical, funny story should do, right? It should just go psh, psh, psh. But I'm really impressed that took a day and an afternoon to edit. I would have thought that was like possibly a 2-dayer, but you know, the collaborative power of family.
Yeah, lots of bribing.
So what's the course been like so far, and what's coming up?
It's been amazing. The idea, so the part of the reason for Creative Workforce is it's sort of to develop employment practices in the UK, to like in Bristol specifically, stop making it so monotonous, and give chances to like nurture new talent from socio-economic like difficult circumstances, or Black and brown people. And Knowle West specifically was to do with filmmaking, and they wrote on their application, on job application, basically Black women specifically. So me and my friend that both applied, I think over 50 people applied for the same position, but we both Black East African women. And yeah, it was incredible to get the opportunity. And neither of us had come from a filmmaking background, which I think was the point. Mevis, the other girl, has been working in a hospital for a couple of years, I think 5-6 years. I was working at the airport before. So when we both got the job, it was the first time either of us had like been anywhere near a camera, the first time any of us had touched any editing software. So we had about a month to get our heads, actually less than a month. 2 weeks was just like introductions to people. And then we had about 2 weeks to get used to cameras and editing software, and then we were off on our own.
Wow.
Whoa.
But it worked out. I learned a lot from YouTube and Skillshare. Yeah, figure it out on my own. It's all good.
I love that. Because I think the best learning experience, because I want to ask all three of us that very quickly. I find the best learning experiences I've had is when you're just thrown in at the deep end, and it's horrible to begin with, but you find your own rhythm and you start to figure things out in your own way, you know. And I think there's something really lovely about any kind of learning experience or project that enables you to find your own discipline, your own achievements and your own sense of kind of, do you know what I mean? I don't think there's anything better than kind of being allowed to get hands-on with equipment, you know, because I think that's the first scary thing. It certainly was for me. I mean, I feel like a proper old git now, but I mean, I remember the first time I held like an Arri 60mm camera, and I just, it's like, oh my God, I'd go in at the end of the course day every day, and I'd sit with the tutor at the time, because the workshops were so quick, and every day I'd go in and you had to load the film stock in like black bag, and you had to kind of learn the inside, all the little widgets inside the camera, and I'd just go in and just practice and practice and practice until you get it right, you know. And not everybody, some people get it first time. I certainly wasn't one of those people, so it took time for me to figure that out. But just knowing that someone is there to kind of just make sure you're doing okay, but just goes, right, you've got to get hands on and get comfortable with what you're doing. You know, what's I mean, like, does that make sense to you guys as well? What Dee was saying? Because that's fantastic. You know, hitting the ground running. It's stressful to begin with, but we kind of acclimatize, right?
For sure. I definitely feel like that really brought me back to Senegal, because that filming and planning everything, I had I just shot. I was shooting just constantly for a whole week, and like being in a country where you don't speak the language and just trying to like make sense of everything and trying to be coherent, just because we were on a time limit, was kind of nerve-wracking. And what made it even worse was that we had to screen the film at the end of the trip as well, whilst we were in Senegal, and that just added more pressure onto everything. So it was like you're being delved into it, so you really had to just push yourself and just like try to find a narrative that was coherent and like, yeah. And you know, it was all turned out in the end, so that was great. And I think it was probably the most productive I've ever been. Like, yeah.
Mike, is there any experience you can share?
Yeah, experiences. I can't think of any at the moment, but what I have been saying for a long time to people that come to me asking about the route to filmmaking, because I studied film at uni. But my advice to anyone is always, you don't go to uni to do film. Yeah. If you want to know about filmmaking, just get a camera, buy a camera and start filming. Yeah, and writing stories and start filming. And I wish I did that. I'm glad I went to uni, but you know, I realized I didn't have to go uni to learn film or to do film. Anything creative, I think, just do it. Just do it. Yeah, you learn on while you're doing it.
Definitely. Like uni's like contacts, like people that you can work with and collaborate in the future. That's what it really is about.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Totally
you
agree.
You learn the theory at uni. It's just you know, about whether you're gonna apply it when you're actually making film. But yeah, just get a camera and start filming and shooting stuff like what Pierre was doing. You learn so much. And what
exactly, Mike. Because and again, that relates back to Pierre, your experience of shooting during COVID for the first time. You know.
Yeah.
So I think this is why I'm so glad it's the three of you guys with your completely individual experiences. But there's so much like there's so many conversations. There's so much crossover in our different experiences. You know. So it's because I think that's the thing. It's just about trying to energize people to take interest in film if they're interested. And I think, Dee, I think it's that thing of, just like you said, it's like, right, time to pick up the equipment and like get to grips with it and figure it out. I mean, so far, what are your favorite elements of the filmmaking process? Is it shooting, editing? I mean, or writing, or or working on narratives?
For me, or
Yes, Dee.
okay.
Yeah.
For me, shooting so far is the most difficult to me because I'm not very technically experienced with filmmaking. So I've only really picked up a camera realistically a dozen times. But I found that I really liked writing the dialogue. It came quite easily, and editing came quite easily as well. I thought there was a bit of instinct to do with it. When I got into it, it was like, oh, okay, this feels right. This seems like it goes well together. But I think it's all about experience and doing it over and practicing. So yeah, I need to get more comfortable with shooting, clearly.
I was going to ask you, Dee, what kind of looking towards the future, what kind of stories are you interested in the most? I mean, is that comedy? Is it, or are you kind of open to wherever storytelling takes you?
Since this project, actually, even though we are kind of stuck at home, I have managed to get a few things like commissioned by the Bristol Vic to do a project on that stealing, working class, and what's considered highbrow, and something else to do with laundry and laundrettes. So different projects, but they both speak to me, and it's completely different genres. But I figured right now, because I'm at the very beginning, I'm just testing the waters. I figured I'd just go into anything that seems remotely interesting.
Wow.
But yeah, I haven't got any genres or any specific paths. Just throwing myself into any opportunity that I see.
That's great.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that's the way forward for sure. I think any positive thing that's happened to me it's just taking the risk and going with the flow and seeing where it takes you, and I think just taking that first step sometimes is the biggest. I feel like that all the time. I felt that way about Zoom. I mean, I don't know how to do Zoom things, but here we are doing Zoom things. So it's sort of, I think everything is I think it's always up to sort of how willing we are to challenge ourselves, right? Dee, so those are some of the projects that are kind of upcoming. So has kind of Creative Workforce, has that wrapped now, or is that project still going?
It's still going. So it was the way the program is designed is that it's 6 months in a hub. So it's either Spike Islands, Watershed, Knowle West Media Centre, each with a different sort of path. So graphic design or social media managing, content creation, and Knowle West is filmmaking, which is where I ended up. And then after that, after 6 months, we're doing two different placements in industry hubs. So at the moment, I'm in the Encounters Film Festival as a digital editor, doing their trailers,
that's brilliant,
their subtitles and stuff. And then I'm moving on to Aardman as a edit assistant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
feel really good.
Sick.
Oh, that's so cool. And I think like two really good organizations to work with as well, to be involved with. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, in other words, it's like watch this space, isn't it?
Yeah.
For you, Dee. I'm really excited about that. How long have we been? Because like I'm a bit old school in the way of like I like to talk until we've got all the ideas out, and I would imagine it'll either get played all in one or there'll be a couple of edits along the way. But how long do you think we've been?
It's almost coming to an hour now.
Okay, well then at least they've got lots of material. Yeah. They've got lots of material to play with. I reckon what we do is we wrap on just a really quick one, which is favorite film. One favorite film that you've watched recently. I don't know who wants to start.
I'm just going to be. I'll go first because the most recent film I've watched is Tenet, and
watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not. There's no spoilers here. I was really amazed by when I was watching it, and it made me realize, thinking to myself, right, and that word was bigger, the word bigger. I need to be bigger now. I need my films to be bigger. I need to be more ambitious in what I want to make and produce. And I felt that way after leaving that film. Some people have issues with, the oh yeah, I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, that's my favorite. It's my favorite.
So
Recent
great
film,
suggestion.
recent film.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Pierre, Dee?
Okay. I mean, for me, I've watched this film already, but I rewatched it again. It's a short film, Elias's film, The Black Samurai. Because like I was talking about it with someone, and I just rethought about it, and I wanted to watch it again. And I just realized, wait, Elias did such an amazing job on that, honestly. And I was really excited to see it, because they were planning on making it with Chadwick Boseman until he sadly passed away. But I really hope that they can still make that into a full feature film. But yeah, it's such a great narrative. I really wish I had thought about that. Like, yeah, honestly, so good. Yeah.
Yeah, props to that. That's yeah, definitely honourable mention there, because that is great. That's the first. I think that's the first time I met Elias, and I was like, oh, damn, yeah, that's just awesome.
Yeah,
and it's beautifully, it's well executed, isn't it? It's just a great short film.
So good, so good.
Dee, anything that you want to recommend?
So because of the film festival, I have this hard drive just right in front of me, because I've seen 250 films in the past week or so. So I can't think of any like long feature film. I can only think of like about 50 short films, but I did learn something, the exact opposite that Michael learned, of I could have a really small idea and make a short film out of it. Because a lot of these films are about like, oh, my dog broke a leg, or and walking backwards. And like some of these films really have the tiniest premise, and they like make it something interesting and engaging. I was like, oh, that taught me a lot. Like, just that I could run with anything, really. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool.
All about stories.
Sure, I'm not going to do one. I'm not going to do one. But what I am going to do is, should I do one?
Come on, yeah.
Okay. What am I going to do? Really quickly. So here we go. Like I kind of constructed these questions to ask you, and I didn't even think about the film. What have I watched recently that I really liked? I can't think. What have I watched? I watched a screener through a friend about, but I can't remember the name of the documentary. It's about the San Francisco artist who created Pepe the Frog, which has now become this horrible right-wing meme. But the guy behind it is just this really lovely hippie cartoon artist. And it just shows the struggle that he's gone through to kind of reclaim that image away from the sort of poisonous way that it's been exploited. And it's a really delicate film, and it's just a beautiful story about liberating images from harm, and ultimately for me, it really made me think about like, oh wow, yeah, of course, all of this is about making sense out of images. That's kind of what we're excited about doing, and we like to tell stories with images and sound. And it's just sort of, it makes you think about that artist who had no idea that this really, what was created to be like a loving creation for his daughter and for other children to sort of explore inclusion, ironically, with all the other characters in the story. And it just gets manipulated into this horrible thing. And the kind of trauma that it took this guy through. So the power of images and the sort of impact of these things if they're exploited or used in the wrong way. Yeah, that's my one off the top of my head. But I will find the details of that and post it up somewhere that's to do with this. And I think it's coming out soon. It's a good one. It's pretty cool. I just want to say thank you to you guys. Thank you to Knowle West Festival and Creative Workforce for Future Filmmakers. Yay! Trying to do my best, kind of like Kermit the Frog cheer, like yeah. And all the filmmakers that shared their work for this Cables and Cameras event, Homecoming. Yeah, thanks guys, and hopefully we can kind of like update and catch up soon. And yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity again. I've done Cables and Cameras in Knowle West, and it was nice to meet you, Dee. Nice to meet you, Pierre.
You too,
up the good work, man. Yeah, cool, man.
Big up Gary too.
Yes, thank you, Gary.
Gary.